Congress President Sonia Gandhi will lead a march of opposition MPs to Rashtrapati Bhavan from Parliament against the land acquisition bill. Ahead of this march, a massive controversy has erupted with the Delhi police imposing Section 144. The opposition is alleging that the government wants to bar them from taking out a march to Rashtrapati Bhavan. The Delhi police has set up barriers. They've deployed water cannons. Additional security forces have been brought in around the parliament. Members of parliament are being requested not to march but drive to Rashtrapati Bhavan for their appointment with the president. Delhi Police Commissioner has said police may be forced to initiate action should Section 144 be violated. MOS Parliamentary Affairs Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi has denied that opposition MPs are being barred from meeting the president or taking out a march. Speaking in Rajya Sabha, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi said there was no ban. The march will be attended. There are other parties that will participate in this march include the JDU, the RJD, Left, DMK, Trinamool. At the end of the march, a delegation of MPs will meet President Pranab Mukherjee and hand over a memorandum against the land bill.
Heavy security presence in and around the India Gate area, especially outside of Parliament, where we are expecting top political leaders to assemble and then march towards Rashtrapati Bhavan to lodge that strong protest on the very emotive and politically sensitive issue of land acquisition. Now, Delhi Police Jawans, CRP Jawans all have assembled here in this area in large numbers, including women forces as well. But it is going to be a tricky situation, remember, because the kind of leaders that we are talking about include the likes of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, former Prime Minister like Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Sharad Yadav. Section 144 is normally imposed in and around this area, especially when Parliament is in session. What we are learning, in fact, that the Delhi Police Chief has politely requested these leaders to not take to a padayatra, not to really walk down all the way up to Rashtrapati Bhavan, rather to drive down in their own vehicles, keeping in mind security concerns. However, he also told media persons that police forces are adequately prepared to handle the situation. What is perhaps worrying them more is what if the other activists and party members join their leaders and try and create havoc, because yesterday we saw those images play out where police had to resort to water cannons and lathi charges. Well, water cannons, of course, have been deployed in Rajpath today as well. But when you talk of such a strong political forces, like, of course, the leaders from JDU, SP, Trinamool Congress, the Congress itself, then obviously it is going to be a difficult situation for the forces to handle. Here, right outside Parliament, the video journalist Anurag Saxena. This is Smita Sharma for Headlines Today.
Sitaram Yechuri said on the floor of the House, what difference does it make to the government whether I go on a horse carriage or otherwise? Opposition MPs insist they will march to Parliament, to the Rashtrapati Bhavan from Parliament. Joining me now for more on the story is Headlines Today, Smita Sharma. Smita, the battle lines are clearly drawn between lawmakers and law enforcers. The lawmakers insist they will march to Rashtrapati Bhavan. What will the law enforcers do?
Well, Gaurav, in fact, the battle lines are drawn even here in Vijay Chowk between the police forces and media itself, because we have been pushed beyond these barricades to this particular area of Vijay Chowk, and clearly our camera persons would have to zoom in and really far ahead to try and get you those visuals. But, as far as these leaders are concerned, in fact, the Delhi Police Chief, Mr. Basi, one of our colleagues from TV Today Network, he just spoke to him. He was making, of course, a representation at the Privileges Committee inside Parliament. But Mr. Basi seemed to suggest that while, yes, there has been that letter that was written to Mr. Sharad Yadav saying that if these leaders do march, it will be in violation of the prohibitory orders that are in place. But they have really no problems if the leaders want to march quietly to Rashtrapati Bhavan. They will have a problem if they try and stage a dharna protest of some sort. So, for them, of course, it is a situation of trying to deal with very, very seasoned politicians. We are also hearing that perhaps somebody like Dr. Manmohan Singh, who has health issues to deal with would of course drive and go to Rashtrapati Bhavan. For the others, obviously if the opposition forces must be thinking at this point in time that if there is any sort of a tussle, it could provide them more political mileage, or something that the government will not be in a mood to sort of allow them. So it is going to be an interesting scene that will play out in the next 2 hours that we are expecting, because what we are learning is around 6:30 is really the time that has been given by the President House for these leaders to come and submit that memorandum to President Pranab Mukherjee. Gaurav?
Okay. So what is it that the government intends to do in this case? The Delhi police, will they use water cannons like they did against the Congress party at Jantar Mantar and Parliament Street yesterday? Or because there are the likes of Sonia Gandhi, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Sitaram Yechury, JDU leaders, left leaders, when all of them are together, will they finally permit this march?
Well, highly unlikely that water cannons would be used here. These are just two high-profile politicians around here, Gaurav. They're not regular party activists or members who will try jumping barricades or, try and do some sort of a guerrilla activity in and around this parliament area. These are seasoned leaders, of course, who will be marching. But remember, this distance of less than a kilometer that they will be marching all the way up to Raisina Hill essentially allows them that space on TV through media to reach out to the larger population with that message that, listen, we are pro-poor, we are pro-farmer, we have taken to the streets with an issue that affects poor people. So I think clearly, for the police forces, using water cannons on these leaders is something that is not an option really. If other activists try and, jump in suddenly, springing a surprise perhaps,
yes,
they might have to face that sort of an action. But if they just want to march in quietly, I don't think there will be much of a problem. The media persons really are not being allowed to go in even to that point. We'll have to wait and watch if we ourselves in fact are allowed to follow these leaders as they of course walk up to Rashtrapati Bhavan. Gaurav?